Okay, U9. In this video, we're going to be covering our 6 topographic map skills. This video is not going to be as in-depth as a couple of our last ones because a lot of this is revision, and because there's so many skills, I wanted to condense it into one easy to follow video. So our first skill is area reference. We're also going to be doing grid reference. The first two things that we want to take into account is that both of these skills are about locating features on the map. I've highlighted a couple of options here on this map, which you guys have a copy of as well. It shows Corindi. I've highlighted the bowling greens, the tennis court, the cemetery, the sawmill, and who'd have thought it lookout. So, if I was going to come up with a question, which was, what is the area reference of the tennis court? What it's asking is, how do I label this box? The way that I identify and write an answer for this particular box is I need to find the bottom left-hand corner of the box, which is here. Just draw a little cross, and the two numbers that meet to connect into that corner, which is 11 and 80. And that's all we need to do. So the way that you write your answer for that would be area reference. We run to the tree before we climb it. We do the bottom before the side. So we go 80-11. And that's the way that we do our area reference. 4 numbers, which is the two numbers put together, meeting into the left-hand corner point. Now we're going to have a go at grid reference. This one, we're not locating a whole box, we're locating a specific feature. So let's do grid reference for the cemetery. The way that we do this is we take our ruler and we mark where a cross would overlap over onto the cemetery. So if I was going to draw a whole line, it would be like putting a gun sight over your target. And we can see that we just need to come up with a number that uses the numbers that we have here already, but break it up into decimal points to get our 6 numbers. So we're going to do our number for this axis first, and I'll write my answer thing, and I'll do it as we go. Grid reference, 80 and 81. It's somewhere in between 80 and 81. 81.5 would be somewhere around the middle, so this is probably 80.3. So I'm going to go 80 and then 3 for the 0.3. If you want to put the point in, that's fine. And then down here, we can see it's smack bang in the middle between 10 and 11. So it is going to be 10.5. You saw I ran out of a bit of room, but you just write those two lots of 3 numbers next to each other. So let's do this in reverse rather than asking to write down the number. What if you got a question like this? What feature can be found at grid reference 82 and 114? What I would do first is I would put the points in there, so I now know that that is 80.2 and 11.4, and I will go searching. So 80.2, it's going to be somewhere along there, and 11.4, 11.4 halfway is about here, so I'll go slightly lower. Put my fingers on the map, go to they touch together, and the feature is the showgrounds. So the answer I'd write in my book is showgrounds. So that's all we need to know for area and grid reference. Now we're going to move on to distance. So we've got multiple locations, and the other thing that we have with our map is a key like this and a scale. Take a ruler and say the question is, what is the distance between the sawmill and the cemetery? Take my ruler, line it up in the middle of the sawmill, line it up with the cemetery, and it is about 4.5 centimeters. I then take that ruler, line it up on my scale. I look for 4.5. 4 centimeters is 1 kilometer, so it's a little bit more. 1.5 is around there, so I'm going to say that it is about 1.1 kilometers. So your answer would be 1.1 kilometers. That's the real world distance between the cemetery and the sawmill. So to do any distance question, you're going to need a ruler. You're going to need to use some sort of scale. And that's all you need to do for distance. The next one is bearing. So bearing is just like directions, but we break it down into numbers instead of north, south, east, or west. You're going to need one of these and start off with a question. What is the bearing from the sawmill to the cemetery? Well, the way that we do that is we take our tool, we lay the sight over the top of the sawmill. We have 0 pointing towards the top of the page. That's indicating north. You can see that that would be east. And coming along to the cemetery, it needs to be the number around here. You can see that there's 2 numbers where I've marked it. It's somewhere around a 300 and a 60. So the one that you write is that you start with 0, and then the next number that would follow would be 10. So I want you to ignore the outside numbers, just follow the inside track, or if your compass has the 10 on the outside track, follow the outside track and ignore the inside one. As long as it goes from 0 to 10 to 20 to 30, you're on the right track and you're following all the way around. So if I'm coming around here, if I was starting at the sawmill and walk directly to the cemetery, it is around 65 degrees on the bearing. And if the question asks for a compass direction, I could say northeast. Righto, we're doing really well. We only got 2 more to go. Next one is contour lines. Now, contour intervals, these red squiggly lines on this map is showing the elevation and the fall and the rise and fall of the land, showing where our hills are, our mountains are, and our valleys and so on. Some of them have little numbers indicating how many meters above sea level they are. You might not be able to see on this, but you'll be able to see on your map. This one is 410, that's 430, that's 400, and 450. The lines have to go up in equal intervals. So if the question is asking what is the contour interval, it's asking what chunk does it go up in. Now we can see that there is no line in between the 400 and the 410. So that should tell you that the contour interval is 10 meters. And even if you didn't have the 400 right next to it, and say you just had the 410 and the 430, well, we have a line in between. It's the most likely block to be in between that. That would be 420, and you don't even need the number there to tell you. One more skill to go. Aspect of the slope. You're only going to get one question asking about the aspect of the slope, and we're going to be focusing on who'd have thought it over here because it is our most pronounced slope that we have. So think of the slope like if you were running down a hill, that is a slope. What way does it fall? That's what it means by the aspect. What direction does it fall? So if I was given this square, so it'll tell you an area reference, you go locate that section of the mountain, and if it asks what is the aspect of the slope, what way is the slope falling away, well, I can see that it is falling away in this direction. It starts off here, falls down to 0, and then we have a river. And that, if this is north and that is east, it's going to be northeast. And that's all you would write for the direction. And that is it. That is our 6 skills for topographic maps.